How's it, friends? I'm Nazubro, and Azeroth is building an army. So this is something that has of course been building since Legion-ish, with the arrival of Magni on the scene as the speaker, which of course was our first ever conduit to Azeroth, the Worldsoul herself. For the first time, we had a way to communicate with her, or rather for her to communicate with us. And ever since, we have been getting closer and closer to being able to speak with her directly. However, just talking with us does not seem to be her endgame, and she's moving pieces on the board that really makes it seem like she is intentionally building an army of powerful beings to fight for her in the coming conflicts. Makes sense, her interests do typically align with ours since we can't exist without her. With what has happened in the War Within and previous expansions, we can see a pattern, and that pattern probably tracks all the way through the rest of the Worldsoul saga. So let's rewind a bit first and take a look at what she's been scheming, and what that means for Midnight and the Last Titan. By the way, this video will later include spoilers to the War Within campaign, so if you haven't completed that yet, then get out of here. Come back later. So of course, the crux of a lot of this is your boy Magni Bronzebeard. In the lead up to Cataclysm, Magni read from a set of ancient Earthen tablets that had been found in Ulduar during Wrath of the Lich King. Doing so turned him into the diamond form that we know him today, and kept him in a sort of stasis throughout all of Cataclysm, Mists, and Warlords, until he finally woke up again and told us that he could hear Azeroth speaking to him. Back then though, it wasn't so much as a conversation, but more of Magni picking up on her feelings and thoughts. After Legion and beginning with BFA, we went into the Chamber of the Heart and were gifted the Heart of Azeroth from Azeroth herself, through Magni. This was kind of like the second instance of Azeroth recruiting someone powerful to her cause, being one of the most important people on the planet. Me. Well, you too probably. Us, the player character. We would go on to empower the heart and use it to fight the threats across the world that would have destroyed her, and then of course using the thing to Kamehameha N'Zoth in a kind of anticlimactic cinematic. Job's done. Of course, after BFA we had Shadowlands. Bear with me here, this section will be quick, I promise. While in the Realm of Death, nothing really important to Azeroth herself happened until right at the end, when Zovaal the Jailer tried to do the big suck and use Azeroth's essence to delete reality. This big suck, along with all the stuff that Azeroth had endured previously, seemed to jostle her awake, or at least more awake than before, which of course leads us to Dragonflight. See, I told you, be sure. So throughout Dragonflight, the running theme that everyone kept bringing up was that the land was waking up, which was connected to Azeroth being a bit more awake than before. We helped the dragon aspects try to reclaim their aspectral powers that they had given up back at the end of Cataclysm, and our initial attempt doesn't work. We spent some of the expansion trying to figure out why by bringing back Tyr and all that, but it isn't until the end of the final raid of Mirdrassil that we succeed. Although it isn't truly by our actions directly, but rather Azeroth herself, who basically empowers the dragon aspects with her own essence. The dragons make it very clear that this is
not the Titan's magic,
and that it comes from Azeroth herself instead. So the aspects, who are supposed to be some of the most powerful living creatures on the planet, are now connected directly to the Worldsoul in a way only someone like Magni has ever been. In turn, this means every dragon of each flight, and all the ones that now follow Viranoth as well, are all in turn aligned with the Worldsoul. Remember, the aspects were previously very much on the side of the Titans, since that's where they got their power from in the first place. If Azeroth now asked the aspects to fight for her, I doubt they could refuse, and I doubt they would even want to. An army of every Dragonflight is already pretty formidable, but we don't stop there. Fast forward now to the War Within, and shit is beginning to hit the fan. Now other people besides Magni are hearing Azeroth's voice, which means she is now forming direct connections with all of us. In one final attempt to communicate with her, she leads Magni and us by extension to Khazalgar, where my home Dalaran was destroyed, and we meet a new sect of Earthen, and combat the Nerubians at every turn. We learn that these Earthen have a machine that would basically recycle their bodies to keep them functioning forever, but the machine has been broken for a very long time. At the conclusion of the campaign quests in the second zone, the Ringing Deeps, we enter the Awakening Machine, which appears to also be a storage for an actual gargantuan amount of dormant Earthen. When those Earthen are under threat to be corrupted by the Void, Azeroth speaks to Magni, saying something I believe is very important. It is time. Magni then channels her power, dispels the Void, but also then empowers the dormant Earthen with Azeroth's power. They start waking up, and are far more powerful than normal, according to the short questline that you do upon making a new Earthen character. They are not bound to the Titan edicts and are free to choose what they want to do and who they want to be. Azeroth, through Magni, granted them power and disconnected them from the previous power they might have been reliant on, the Titans, just like the dragon aspects. And then there's that line, "It is time." It could imply that she has planned for this moment for a long time. Has she planned it since the moment Magni turned into a shiny statue? I actually don't think so, but regardless of when she came up with this idea, this does seem to be a premeditated plan, to use Magni as a conduit to spawn an army of ex-Titan constructs that she grants freedom. Just like the dragons, these Earthen would probably not hesitate for a moment if Azeroth called on them to fight for her. And if she can do this for these Earthen, it makes sense that she could probably do the same thing for other Titan constructs elsewhere on the planet, which I'll get into in a bit. So there appears to be a running theme here, a group of beings that are reliant on either a power source or cosmic entity that Azeroth has the power to overwrite and sever that connection, while also severing any reliance these beings had and simultaneously empowering them to make them stronger with her power specifically. This line of thinking leads me directly into our next expansion, Midnight. I wonder if you can see where I'm going with this. Midnight is the ultimate elf expansion, and is so exciting to think about since it's the first time that an entire region of the old world that we've already been to is being revamped and modernized for the purpose of being important in a new expansion. At the same time, it is also framed as the ultimate battle between light and void, all centered around Quel'Thalas and, most importantly, the Sunwell. The Sunwell being relevant again is huge. The Blood Elves, High Elves, Void Elves, and similarly, the Nightborn, all have history with their addiction to mana, and the fact that they struggled to even live without the influence of their fonts of power, although they have mostly seemed to get over this in the years that have passed. Now, of course, the Blood Elf and High Elves had this problem mostly solved back at the end of Burning Crusade, when Velen fixed the Sunwell with the light and some arcane on the side. This means all elves from Quel'Thalas are no longer being eaten from within by their crippling mana addiction, as even the Alliance-aligned High Elves are allowed to make pilgrimages to the Sunwell. With Midnight, though, the Sunwell being threatened likely opens up some very interesting scenarios. If, throughout the expansion at some point, likely the end, the Sunwell does begin to fall to void corruption, which could spell the doom not just for the elves but for everyone, the only entity powerful enough to undo that would probably be, you guessed it, Azeroth herself. In the exact same way she severed the dragons and Earthen from the Titans, all while empowering them, I believe she could do the same thing to the elves. It could either be that, due to the corruption, the well needs to be destroyed forever, which could have disastrous effects on the elves until Azeroth basically uses her power to dispel the dependence they have from the well completely. Alternatively, and more likely in my opinion, she could also empower the well with her own power, the same way she overrode the void that almost corrupted the Earthen in the Awakening Machine. This continues the theme of granting people freedom from their previous reliance on other beings or cosmic powers, and gets them squarely on her side. Maybe throw in some Azeroth-colored eye customization options too. It's not like the elves have enough of those already. This is definitely something I can see Blizz pulling. The cleansing of the Sunwell and the empowerment of the elves is a big cheesy moment, and not necessarily cheesy in a bad way, that Blizz specializes in. Throughout the years, they have very much drifted towards it being us and Azeroth against the rest of the universe. She is key to everyone's plans, and the mortal races on her surface have so far proved to be her best line of defense. We've talked about Midnight, so what does this mean about the last Titan? Well, yeah, while it is far away and still pretty unclear, the details we do know are pretty huge. In the third expansion of the Worldsoul saga, we are heading back to Northrend to, presumably, maybe, either square off with the Titans, mainly Aman'Thul, or perhaps help them fight something else? It's not clear yet, but what is clear is what we will find waiting for us in Northrend to an extent since we've been there before. Northrend is of course home to the biggest Titan facility in the world, Ulduar. The entirety of the Storm Peaks is the pinnacle of Titan presence on the entire planet, and if we are going to war with the Titans like the game really seems to be setting up, then this will be an insane war against the forces of Ulduar in the north while we push from the south. Wormrest will probably be a major hub with how friendly we are with all the dragons these days, and we will have the Azeroth-blessed dragon aspects at our backs, as well as an army of Earthen and anyone else that seems fit to join. Last time we were in Northrend, however, we were friendly with all the keepers present, and even fought alongside them to destroy Yogg-Saron. Would some of them maybe join forces with us after seeing so many fellow Titan constructs fighting alongside us? We will have to see, but if they do, Azeroth clearly has the means to affect Titan machinery and bring it under her influence. If a major war against the Titan-aligned beings of Northrend is coming, then I would not be surprised if Azeroth herself tips the scales by scooping up soldiers from right under the Titans' noses. One thing is probably for certain, we will hopefully, finally, get to put Odin on his ass like he deserves. The last Titan speculation ties back to Magni too. With Azeroth saying, "It is time," implying that she had this plan to use him as a conduit to empower the Earthen for at least a while, then she almost certainly has to have a plan for the Titan forged she knows are elsewhere in the world, especially Northrend. With no other diamondy persons nearby that we know of though, she might need to figure something else out. Maybe by then she'll have enough strength to just start manifesting herself a bit more openly. Time will tell. So that's my theory. Azeroth will claim the Sunwell with her magic in the 11th hour, forming a connection with the elves that depend on it, empowering them in the process. And if we truly go to war with the Titan forged of the Storm Peaks, I fully expect her to at least try to claim some of the machinery up there for herself. It does beg the question though, is this stacking of the deck being done by Azeroth truly a good thing? Any other being of power doing the same thing would be major red flags. Although I do guess her interests and ours align since we can't exist without her. But it does still rub me a little bit the wrong way. Just a tad though. I would love to hear what you guys think though. Is this stuff all likely in your opinion? Am I way off? What do you think will happen? Please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your guys' speculations about the Worldsoul Saga's trajectory. Other than that, dropping a like is always appreciated and subscribing would mean the world to me. Subscribing means more content from me in the future, so if you enjoy how I do things here, hop in. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, stay safe, bros.